Let's start implementing registration and authentication in Nuxt application. We already have sign up page as well as sign in page. So I'm gonna use those pages to implement full flow of registration and authentication. And to do so, we are also going to install additional npm package. There is a module for Nuxt applications called Nuxt Utils, and this module provides us with all necessary functionality to implement authentication based on session cookie. So let's open up documentation for this module and install it. As the first step, I'm going to run the following command to install this package. When running this command in terminal, you might be asked to install additional package called Nuxt. Let's say yes and wait until the installation is finished. And what this command is going to do, besides installing npm package, it will also add additional entry with the name Nuxt Utils into this modules array inside the Nuxt configuration file. Then, in order to encrypt session cookies, Nuxt Util package needs random string, which will be used as a password to encode and decode session cookies. So we can either add the following environment variable to the .env file, or Nuxt Utils package can also create this variable for us in case it will not exist. So I'm going to skip this step and instead let Nuxt Utils create it for me. We're also going to need to use database to store registered users, and for this I'm going to use ORM called Drizzle. ORM stands for Object Relational Mapper, which is basically a convenient way to interact with databases. We will be able to create all kinds of requests to database by using familiar syntax. Then the next tool we're gonna use will be Nuxt Hub. This is another package from the Nuxt ecosystem, which provides deployment capabilities for Nuxt applications to Cloudflare environment. And Cloudflare is like AWS, which provides cloud infrastructure for applications. But besides that, it also offers some other handy features. For example, it provides us with a way to easily talk to databases, in particular to SQLite database. So let's open up documentation and install this package. Right here, I'm going to copy this command and run it in a terminal. And please note that we are installing this package into existing Nuxt application. And when this command will be finished, besides installing npm package, it is also going to add additional entry into modules array inside nuxt.config.ts file with the name nuxthub/core. Alright, let's get back to the documentation. We're going to skip the next step for now. Let's move on to the configuration. And to configure this Nuxt Hub package, we can add the following configuration object. Under the key hub, I'm gonna copy this object and paste it into my configuration. And with that, to enable capabilities to interact with SQL databases, we're going to add key called database with the value of true. Here is how it's done. Let's create hub configuration object within which I'm going to add database key and set it to true. This way we're enabling database features. And to interact with databases, we're going to use Drizzle ORM, which Nuxt Hub has a tight integration with. So let's open up Drizzle ORM section right here and take a look at how those two things are integrated. Well, of course, we'll have to install Drizzle npm package first. So I'm going to run npm install for this package. And also we're gonna install additional package which will only be used in the development environment called Drizzle Kit. This package has some tools which we're gonna need, for example, the tool to generate migrations. So I'm installing this package as well. And on the next step, we will have to add configuration file for the Drizzle library called drizzle.config.ts. Here is an example of the content in this file. So let's copy the content and create this file. In the root of our project, I'm gonna paste this content. In here, we're specifying which type of database we're going to use, which will be SQLite in this case. We're also specifying the path to the file where we're going to define our database schema by using TypeScript syntax. And also we're adding another key called out. And under this key, we're specifying the path to the folder where Drizzle Kit is going to generate migrations based on the schema defined within schema.ts file. So as a next step, let's create schema for our database. Here is an example of how the schema should look like. So I'm gonna copy this content and create file schema.ts within server database folder. Right here, let's paste the content. And what this does is it creates a table called users in a database with several fields. So to simplify this example, I'm going to use only 3 fields. Let's keep only ID, email, and password. ID will be a primary key of the integer type. Email and password will be simple text. Null values are not allowed. And we're also making email column unique. And based on this schema, Drizzle is going to generate migrations for us. But before that, let's add additional script into package.json. I'm going to copy this line and paste it into my package.json file. So this script is going to run Drizzle kit, which will generate migrations. As you can see, it says in here, after running npm run db generate, it is going to take schema defined within schema.ts file and produce migration file within the migrations folder. Let's try it out and make sure that the migration will be created. I'm running this command. As you can see, one file has been created. So let's open up migrations folder, and indeed there is a file with an extension .sql which contains SQL statement that correspond to that schema defined within schema.ts file. So here we have an SQL statement to create users table, as well as statement to add unique index to the email column. And now we're almost ready to run our Nuxt development server. And as it says in the documentation, when we ran npm run db generate, it has created migration for us, and that migration will be automatically executed by Nuxt Hub package when we will run development server. So let me run development server. For now, as you can see, we're getting the following error related to Wrangler package, and that is because we have not installed it yet when we were installing Nuxt Hub package. So let's get back to the installation page of Nuxt Hub package, scroll down in here, and we'll just have to install another npm package called Wrangler. I'm going to copy this command and paste it in a terminal. Once that's done, let's try to start development server one more time. In this time, as you can see, besides starting development server, there has been another step executed, which says database migration applied. So that means that our database has been created, and as we know, SQLite database is a file-based database, so it's just a simple file that has been created, and that database structure that we have defined in the schema.ts file has been generated. And there are a couple of additional folders that have been created, in particular .data hub folder, and among those folders there is the file which corresponds to our SQLite database, which is this one. And there is also a note in the documentation that Nuxt Hub is going to create additional .data hub folder where it is going to store generated files. At this point, we can use any graphical UI client to interact with our database. I'm going to use Table Plus, so in here let me create new SQLite connection. I'm going to name this connection as Nuxt Code Editor. Then I'm going to choose the file which corresponds to SQLite database, that file that has been generated. Now let's test this connection. I'm going to double-click this connection, and there we go, our database is opened, and among all those existing tables, we're also seeing users table, and that is the table that we have previously defined the schema for. So this table contains only 3 columns, just like we have specified ID, email, and password, and email column also has a unique index. So at this point, we are ready to start working on the authentication functionality. Link to the source code will be in the video description.